In today's episode, we're talking about treat training camels, why it works and why we don't do it. Whether you're a camel owner, wannabe camel owner, or simply an adoring camel fan, you're in the right place for some fun, useful, and interesting camel talk. This is the Camel Connection podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Tara.
And I'm Russell. Join us here for fun learning about camels, how to care for, train and handle them, plus insider stories and interviews.
And also some interesting stories of our lifestyle with camels, the good, the bad, the ugly and the very funny.
Make sure you've subscribed now so you don't miss out on an episode.
Some of these podcasts are an audio take of our video, so be sure to check those out on our blog for lots of how-to visuals and, of course, lots of camels.
This is your one and only go-to podcast, all about camels.
So it's no secret that training and handling camels can be a challenge, regardless of the age, breed, or size of the camels. As camel owners or wannabe camel owners, our main priority and concern is getting the camel to understand what we're asking of them, whether that be to sit, walk on a lead, ride, or milk. We bet that as a camel owner, these questions always linger. Am I doing the right thing by the camel? Do they really understand what I'm asking? And how can I understand them better? Simply put, that's exactly why we have camels in the first place, to bond with them, because most of us are long-time serial animal lovers. For us, the three questions linger on a daily basis. We're always learning from these amazing creatures and always trying to better our skills with them. Now we're going to explore if treat training camels really works. And the short answer is yes, it does work. But sit tight as there's more information on that to come. And we'll also be talking about what exactly that the camel thinks when treats are being used during training and handling. So let's get into it. We recently did a camel chat, camel coffee chat, because, what's a chat without coffee? And we dipped into this similar subject to what we're talking about today. We spoke briefly on treat training, but today we're going to explore that further because we had requests to do so. So you can find the camel and coffee chat, which is another episode on this podcast. So scroll through and find that after you listen to this. Okay, let's get back into it. So the concerns for treat training camels are real, and as camel owners and trainers and mentors ourselves, we feel a sense of responsibility to educate on how a camel thinks in these circumstances. So what is treat training? Treat training is a reward-based technique used to get the camel to do something in exchange for a reward, the treat. Clicker training is a common reward-based method alongside many others that evolve and develop from each individual practice. So in short, if you're using food to get your camel to do something either before, after, or during training, that's treat training. So let's have a look at a treat training camel. Let's have a look at a treat training a camel scenario. So, for instance, asking a camel to sit by using treats in a similar manner as you would teach a dog to lie down, by placing the treat really low to the ground so that the camel is forced to sit to get the treat. So, what does a camel think in this moment? Yummy food. That's it. No bonding, no understanding, just a really yummy treat for the camel. The problem with food rewards, problem for you more so, not the camel so much, is that it makes the camel think that they're getting food, not getting trained. It seems like a good deal for the camel, right? But it's not. In In this kind of trickery, there is no real training, just expectations that there will be more food to come, obviously. By now, if you're a camel owner yourself, you've realised that a camel's way of thinking is really unique. It's very practical, very smart, like where's the escape route? And everything is well thought out on the camel's behalf. When treat training camels, they're getting the better of you, which can cause an unfair advantage later on, as a camel never forgets. Although camels are vindictive by nature, it's their circumstances and training and handling that can make them that way. They are very clever and will always have the survival instinct in them to get more. As an example, on our camel farm and out in the desert observing the wild Australian camels that we have here in Australia, we notice that the camel has an innate knowing that someday soon there will be no food. So they eat and eat and eat and eat. Given that they are desert creatures, this makes complete sense. Store food for more trying times. Now take treat training with that in mind. Point being, there could be a day when a camel that has been treat trained will do anything to get to that food because of their natural instinct, so that they can eat while they can. This could also mean running over the top of you for food's sake, accidentally biting you, or something greater. So by now you can see the disconnect. All the camel thinks about when training with treats is yummy food. The camel is not thinking about you and how lovely you are. It's not thinking about bonding with you. There's no trust building in this scenario, only that the fact that the camel trusts that you'll feed him or her on a regular basis. The camel is simply using its natural instincts to stock up on food for more trying times. Most camels will outsmart the human every time. So we're not saying all this to have a bash. If you've been treat training, don't feel bad. Even after hearing this, you still might want to continue treat training, and that's all personal choice. The camel world isn't a big one, and we know how hard it is to get good camel information, not to mention finding a technique that resonates with you at the core. There's no one way to train a camel. We personally only use one way, obviously, our Camel Connection trust-based camel training, but we tweak it for each individual camel with the Camel Connection element as the foundation. So if not treat training, what then? Well, we've got 5 things you can start doing right now to increase your bond with your camel or camels and safely train and handle them without treats. Let's do it. Number 1. Observe their eating behavior. From a distance, watch the camel eat and how the care factor for anything else around them is at 0. Unless, of course, there are other animals with them and they have to constantly try to defend their food. Number 2, when feeding, like for instance hay or bucket feed, use the drop and go method, meaning give the food in a bucket or a hay feeder and leave them to their feed. So naturally they will associate you with food at feed time, but the goal is to get the message across that you're not in their space when food is around, and therefore not asking them to do anything like training and handling wise. Number 3, start at square one with the training. So it may seem a bit backwards, but trust us when we say this. Have your camel in a paddock or a yard. Stand on the opposite side of the railing or fence facing your camel. With your head down and wearing a hat is ideal. Ignore all their sniffs and the like, but if they start to nibble or bite or to get too invasive, like not allowing your personal space, take enough steps away from the rail to get out of reach and turn your back on the camel. Wait 30 seconds to about 1 minute and then walk back to the rail. If they invade your personal space again, nibble or bite, then you walk away again. Repeat this 3 times. On the 3rd time, if they continue to invade your space, walk away completely and try again in 15 to 30 minutes or so, or the next day. Camels are very quick at getting the message. You'll know you've made progress when they are not invading your personal space, biting, nibbling, or they have simply walked away from you. This is good progress. The camel is beginning to understand that you are not giving treats. You're simply wanting to bond and build proper trust. The aim is the next step. Step number 4. With the camel safely tied to a fence or a rail, stand near your camel on the opposite side of the rail with your back turned this time, if deemed safe. If you still don't trust your camel, keep doing step 3 until more trust is formed. For camels that have had a lot of feed involved or always associated human with feed, it may take a little longer. So in this step, they'll most likely, with your back turned, they'll most likely sniff or kiss, maybe nuzzle. But if they're nuzzling at your pockets or where you normally keep treats, walk away for a minute, because the point of the exercise is bonding without intentions or commands whatsoever. So if they're nuzzling, walk away. You don't want to give that impression that you're the treat man or woman. So what you're asking your camel to do in this step is to get used to you being in its space and the camel in your space. There will come a point where the barriers will break down and food is no longer on the brain for the camel, and you'll be bonding for real. So the last step, training and handling without treats. Now that there has been some established boundaries and the camel and yourself have bonded and built trust properly without any bribes, it's time to use the trust and bond that you've built with the camel to your advantage. It's time to ask them to do something like sit, stand, or lead, etc. The goal here is to get the camel to understand what you're asking and comply without any treats. Now, we're not going to sugarcoat it here. This way of training might be a lot more challenging and maybe time consuming compared to treat training your camel. But trust us when we say that the long-term results of being able to safely handle and train your camel through proper bonding and trust will pay off in dividends. It really is worth that extra effort, and it's in the best interest of the camel. So we 100% endorse bonding and understanding between a human and camels because we believe it is the most rewarding for both involved. For us and so many others that have gone through our training using the Camel Connection approach, it has been simply life-changing, constantly learning and constantly growing with this animal that we adore and love. So it's a huge blessing to be part of their lives using the Camel Connection approach. If you liked this information we've just shared with you, you'll be sure to love the free Camel ebooks and training videos that we're giving away. We're giving away 2 Camel ebooks, Introduction to Camels and Introduction to Camel Training. Plus, in our bonus camel training videos, we take you through training and handling camels built on connection and trust. And we also share how to understand a camel's way of thinking. This is gold information that you don't want to miss, so be sure to sign up now to get your free ebooks and training videos over at camelconnection.com.